This is me, Spoon Beast.
Alright, we're off the intro here, and so let's get straight through this. I'm having a great day, So my weekend has started because I have a PD day tomorrow. I watched a new episode of South Park. My dad's coming to see me and my brother. I want to play some video games, so you know what? I'm as chipper as a fly right now. But anyway, I believe that this video is something that needs to be made, and I put it off for about 4 days now, so let's get straight into this. The Sonic team. Oh boy, where do I even begin with this? Well, let's go back to 1991 when Sega had released their first Sonic the Hedgehog game for their Genesis, which had been released for about 3 years. This would be the last year that the Genesis would compete with the Nintendo Entertainment System, because a year after that, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System would make its mark on the gaming industry. But, the first Sonic the Hedgehog game came out, and we know that Sega got a group of their developers together and put them under a new name known as the Sonic Team. Those are the people that develop Sonic games. We know them simply as the Sonic Team. And their purpose was to create Sonic so that they could compete with Mario, Nintendo's mascot. And when the first Sonic the Hedgehog game came out, it was universally praised by gamers and critics. It was an awesome game, what you would call a classic game, and just a platforming action at its best. This game is seriously worth checking out. And in my opinion, nothing topped it. However, it did get a good sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the year later. And then after that, we got Sonic the Hedgehog CD for that stupid-ass Sega CD add-on for the Genesis. And then we got Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which debuted Knuckles, although he wasn't really a hero, nor was he really a villain in that. He's just that one annoying guy who just bothers you through the whole game. That's pretty much what he did. But then him and Sonic would be brought together in Sonic and Knuckles, which was released for the 32X. And then Sonic would disappear from main console games, as the Saturn came out to compete with the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation. It was supposed to have its own 3D Sonic platforming game, which would be known as Sonic Extreme. The game got canceled. The Saturn came and went, and then we got the Dreamcast, which came out before the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and the Xbox. And it had two of the last great Sonic games, which were Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, which debuted Shadow, which for some reason a lot of people love him. Anyway, those two would be the last great platforming games from the Sonic franchise. Those two. As the Dreamcast would later bite the dust when its competitors got out there. And then Sega dropped out of the console war and never made a console since. And then they go on to make the Sonic team to go create games for other consoles. So like for the consoles that were laid out. So the first time they did that, they did it with Sonic Heroes, which was released for GameCube and PlayStation 2. It was an okay game. Definitely didn't compare with any of the others that got released before it. But it was alright. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't shitty. It was just an average, mediocre platforming game. That's all I'm going to say. Although it did do that thing where you're on teams and you could switch between the fast player, the player that can fly, and the powerhouse player. That's all I can really say about it. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. And that was only the beginning of the decline. To believe things would actually get worse after this. And then, a few years after that, we got that ever so shitty Shadow the Hedgehog spin-off game, which, God, that was just terrible, in my opinion. And you all know what that game is about. And then after that, it would get even worse. Because then Sonic the Hedgehog would be released on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And I remember me and my cousin rented this game, and I just played it, and I was like, wow, is this ever bad? The storyline sucked. The controls were awful. And it was just an all-around bad game. And then this is the first game to also have Jason Griffin as the voice of Sonic. He did start playing him in one of the anime series, but this is the first game, which also did not help anything, because he sounds like this. But the voices were terrible, the story was terrible, and the gameplay was terrible. And it was just I just could not believe what I was playing. And I thought, wow, has Sega really sunk this low? Is the Sonic team just that lazy? And this would be the beginning of what would be a transition of gimmicking Sonic games to try and release them. When you gimmick a game, it's because the original series was so successful, you want to branch off and try something new. They did that with Sonic. They did it a year after with Sonic and the Secret Rings, which was, again, an okay game like Sonic Heroes. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. It was just kind of okay. And then they did it again with Sonic and the Black Knight, which I just think is a total fucking joke. That's just retarded. You have Sonic go back in time and battle knights. Just putting a gimmick on games. And they did that with Sonic Unleashed with the Werehog BS. That didn't help anything. You know, they did it with Sonic Riders, which I don't believe any of them ever worked. They're doing it with the Sega All-Star Racing and the Sega All-Star Tennis and that. They're just gimmicking Sonic with a whole bunch of different gimmicks. They're also throwing him in with Mario to help try and make sales by throwing him and Mario at the Olympic Games. Yeah, like the first time fucking worked out. That was a piece of shit. And now they're releasing another one. Sega and Sonic Team are just gimmicking Sonic games without any care whatsoever. Okay? They're just throwing gimmicks on stuff. And they don't work. So they go on and try another gimmick. That's what we've seen game by game by game, is gimmicks that don't work, which they're just using to make a profit anyway. Like for Sonic Unleashed, for people who think that'd be a cool idea to turn into a werewolf. They buy the game to try it out. They get suckered in because of the gimmick. That's what all the Sonic games rely on now, is a gimmick to help make a buck. It doesn't work like that, especially when each of your gimmick fails. Like, take Mario Kart, for example. That was a gimmick because they tried a new thing with Mario because his original series was so successful. But the gimmick was also successful and branched its own line of games in that series. That's why we've seen more Mario Kart games since the Super Nintendo. Because when they branched off into the gimmick also worked. Had it not have worked, they probably wouldn't have tried it again. Or I don't think Nintendo would be stupid enough to branch off into different gimmicks that always fail. Take a look at any Mario gimmick except for the one at the Olympic Games, which is also made by Sega and Sonic Team. But look at every Mario spin-off and gimmick after the original platforming series. Every one of them has worked to an extent that each of them have sequels. The only gimmick game that has sequels is, of course, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, which I don't know why they would. And then some Sonic Riders have sequels in them, as well as probably some handheld collections. Oh, wait, no. The handheld are actually just remakes of the original games, which tone them down a lot. But Sega keeps making gimmicks to try and make a quick buck off new Sonic game that comes out. They try them with something else. What are they going to try them next time? Are they going to run them through Hyrule or something and make a quick buck off that and call it Sonic the Legend of Link? I'm just joking, of course. But really, these gimmicks have not worked. And they're hurting Sega. Like, if Sega keeps this up, they might not even make it 10 more years. They need to realize that they need to change something. They need to go back to original platforming. Go back to the Sonic Adventure-esque. And maybe they can try that with this new game they're codenaming Project Needle Mouse. Maybe they can make it more like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. And make, consistent plots, hire better voice actors, and have great, easy, fun-to-pick-up gameplay. Not terrible games with terrible stories and voices with gimmicks that don't work and have bad controls. Because, you sucker them in to buy one copy, and then the person who buys that and becomes displeased with your product doesn't help you again, but you just create a different gimmick to get another sucker to buy in your product. It doesn't work like that. You need to make consistent games. By this time, Sonic Team, you think you'd have some quality standard. I'll give your new Sonic game a chance. Maybe it'll blow my mind, but maybe it'll just be another stupid gimmick to help buy an unknowing customer. Luckily for me, I am a knowing customer. And really, if any of you concerned Sega fans out there, you need to hear me out, because the Sonic Team needs to get their head out of their asses and realize what has worked in the past and what isn't working now. Because nothing is working now. Each gimmick they have tried has failed. And they just go on and create another gimmick with Sonic's name on it. And that is just bullshit. So, any of you agree with me, comment in the comment section. I just think that this new game has to be more original Sonic-esque and not just be a random shitty game with a shitty plot that has some faggy gimmick to it and just be sold just to buy a cheap customer. I don't know how any of you fanboys can even approve of this shit. Like, I'm a fan, but I don't approve any of this new crap that's coming out. For people who actually defend this shit, compare that to what might have been played 10 years ago. There's no comparison.